We've gotten our first detailed look at FC25 career mode with the pitch notes that was released yesterday. This came in the form of a 4.5-minute video, as well as an article that I think covers these new features in a lot more detail. So I thought we'd go over it today, give you my thoughts on some of the main additions to FC25, and just kind of look ahead as we prepare for a new game launch. So right away, what stands out to me is that with FC25, EA is looking to add more authenticity and player control to manager and player career modes. The three big additions for FC25 are live start points, women's manager career, and FC IQ in career mode. We're going to cover each of these in more detail, and we'll start right away with live start points and snapshots. And this is probably the feature that I'm most excited about. It's actually something that I've implemented into my own videos manually, just kind of manipulating the game to make it work, with whether it's the case of a new manager coming in charge and kind of implementing their tactics in a realistic rebuild, or literally going week by week and replicating a team's results. So it's really cool that EA has decided to incorporate this into the game. One thing I will say, it's a positive that the top 5 leagues are included as part of these live start points, as well as the championship. But one thing that does concern me a little bit is that this is going to be a feature, I believe, that's added after the game's release. It says we'll be kicking off live start points and snapshots later in 2024. You can keep checking in throughout the season for new snapshots and game weeks right up to the end of this season. Stay tuned for an announcement soon on when this is coming. So ultimately, this is going to rely a lot on how often EA decide to update the game with these live start points and snapshots. Kind of similar to a squad update in my mind. If they're doing this every week, every other week, then it could be a solid addition. But if it's something where they're slacking and it's only added every month or maybe even several months after the game's release, I think a lot of the hype will simmer down for this new feature. If done correctly, I think this is going to be the best addition to career mode in a long time, but it's going to boil down to how it is actually implemented by EA. All right, next big feature, FC IQ in career mode. And this is kind of building on what's been done the last few years, where we have more control over how a player plays and what type of player they are. Obviously, for a striker, for example, a Kylian Mbappe might play differently than a Nicholas Fulkrug. They're different kinds of strikers, and they fit different kinds of systems. So starting to incorporate that into FC25 is a good thing. One thing I will say is that one of the features in FC24 that I think was made a big deal about was these play styles, and personally I don't use them that much. I did it for my first few career modes, and I'm not someone that's going to look for a gegenpressing type of striker. Maybe some of you do, but for me it's not something that I am too into. But Development Plans 2.0 I think is a really solid addition, because it takes away those features where you had like 4 or 5 different development plans that fit a certain type of player. I think adding more types of development plans can only be a positive thing, and hopefully they continue to grow different attributes and truly try to grow a player into the type of role that you want them to be. But press conferences and a morale sweet spot in FC25 were evolving the morale system from the approach of the more the better to a sweet spot system. And I think that is an interesting approach. Players are no longer very happy, they become complacent instead. So that could be pretty cool. The fact that if a player is just overachieving at a certain club, maybe he's going to request a transfer away. I think that would be awesome. It's something that I've manually done in some of my career modes in the past. I feel like right now, if a striker is scoring the most goals in the league, and they'll constantly keep their morale very happy and they're going to be performing to the best of their ability, when in reality, it adds to that realism where they would probably make a move away to a more competitive league. Youth system, solid improvements in this category as well, where we have over 160 countries to scout for emerging talent. I'm curious to see which of those countries are going to be added. You can see already in this section, the Oceania region is going to have a whole lot more types of players to look for. I know those of you that do Youth Academy career modes, your Cutsies and DKs, are going to be really excited about this. I think it's only a positive addition. I love geography and all these different types of countries in the world, so I'm really excited about this feature. Kind of tying into those new play styles and player types, looks like you can build that into your scouting, whereas right now you can only look for physically strong, wingers, technically gifted, those kind of things. You have more options available where you can focus on certain types of roles for scouting. But as far as Youth Academy stuff goes, I know one of the other big things is that you can now play the new 5v5 rush mode for your Youth Academy players. I'm not sure how much I will be doing that, but I think it's going to be a solid thing if you find, for example, a high-rated, high-potential Youth Academy players and you want to see what they look like in game and how they play. I'll at least test out Rush a couple of times, and maybe some of these youth tournaments when you reach the semifinal and later stages of the competition. We've also got women's football in manager mode for the first time, where we're going to be able to control 5 different licensed leagues. I think this is going to be a good feature for those of you that like playing women's football in manager career mode. It's an area that I'm continuing to grow in my knowledge of. Personally, I really like watching the Women's World Cup and the Women's Olympics, but the fact that it's in FC25, I think is a positive thing for the game, and it's another game mode that's new to us. Customization is huge to crew mode for me. I'm always changing my sliders to get more realistic gameplay, and I feel like the more I play crew mode, the less I actually play in game, the more I enjoy just watching the AI play against the AI and the tactics I've set up. It's kind of the football manager approach, and it's cool to see that FC25 is going to dive into that a little bit more. We've got more options as for how things are going to play out, and hopefully these preset gameplay types like simulation actually factors into realistic gameplay. I think the fact that you can also customize the features where you don't get sacked, where there's no scouting, where players can develop faster, is another really great addition. In the past, you've only been able to do this on PC through things like mods, so the fact this is available to console players as well is awesome. For the new menu visuals and social media, I'm not against this. I think every now and then a refresh on how the menus look isn't a bad thing as long as it is intuitive. It always takes a while to get used to some of the new menu layout. I think 1 or 2 years back, career mode saw a pretty big overhaul, but I think it's a good thing. And hey, for the social media and review of the manager tasks, we'll see how it plays out. The fact that Fabrizio Romano is now in career mode is a cool thing, but not going to be a game-breaking thing to how FC25 plays throughout the year. Being able to play with icons in career mode is also a really cool feature, taking kind of that road to glory approach where you might start at the beginning stages of David Beckham's career and turn him into the superstar and mega talent that he became, is an interesting challenge and might add to people playing player career mode in the long run. Some of these player career mode types like Origin Story remind me a lot of the system they have in EA Sports College Football 25, where you can choose how difficult you want your player career mode to be. You can take that road to glory approach where you have an unproven talent that really needs to earn every minute. You can take kind of that middle tier approach where they're going to have more minutes and have an easier way of things. Or you can take that prodigy approach where a player is going to be gifted and it's going to be an easier approach to them getting minutes for the first team. But it's, again, kind of adds back into how much customization there is going to be in FC25 career mode. And speaking of which, there's going to be more player customization as far as how you can adjust a pro's appearance, things like pro clubs, things like player career mode, and hopefully like manager career mode as well. So in summary, the big takeaways for FC25 career mode are those real-time updates. I think if it's done consistently and done correctly, it's a big feature and something that's been asked for a lot from me and a lot of players, where we just want to see updates for the game happen in real time and get the best version of career mode throughout the year and not just from when the game is launched. I understand if things aren't perfect on the game's release, but I think all that us career mode players are asking is for the product to improve over the course of the year in the game cycle. Next big feature is the customization, whether that's through the simulation, whether that's through the manager appearance, all those sort of things, how the player plays in game. There's more customization options and also women's football. Again, for those of you that are into that, I think this is a really solid improvement, and it's not a bad thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, which features you're excited for, and what you think of career mode so far. I think we still got a ways to go and a lot more information to get before we get our hands on it, but I'm optimistic, but cautiously optimistic as we look ahead to FC25 career mode. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, but until next time, this has been Flick. I'll be talking to y'all again soon.